English speakers often ask us how the topic of the Nazi regime and the Holocaust is approached in Austria nowadays. That isn't as easy a question as some might believe. So we decided to explain this, starting with the annexation of Austria, generally called der Anschluss. You can translate Anschluss with joining or connection, and it was not a new intention or something the Nazis invented. For a long time, collective identity was far more often formed by shared culture and language, and less by nationality. In that sense, there was a sizable group of Austrians who understood themselves as Germans. Combine this with the perceived loss of importance, and you got a prime situation. Let's take a look. Here we got a map of the Austro-Hungarian Empire until 1919. Feel free to pause the video. And here we got a map of the independent successor nations. These borders aren't just arbitrary lines on paper. Every time they change, they cut through established administrative structures, economical supply lines, and also existing identity constructs. Who are we now? Can this small country be self-reliant? Every struggle for a new identity is an opportunity for change. Here we got pictures from the Hauptplatz, main square of my home city of Linz. A crowd of people is attracted by the announcement of the First Austrian Republic in November of 1918, at the time called Deutsch Österreich, German Austria. And here we got the same place nearly 20 years later, in the morning of March 12, 1938. Units of the German army crossed the border and were met by no resistance, but more often by cheering citizens. This reaction led to a speech of Hitler in Linz, the city where he spent his youth, during which he announced the unification. Listen to this small clip of the speech.
Wenn die Vorsehung mich einst aus dieser Stadt heraus zur Führung des Reiches berief, dann muss sie mir damit einen Auftrag erteilt haben. Und es kann nur ein Auftrag gewesen sein, meine teure Heimat dem Deutschen Reich wiederzugeben.
Present at this day was also August Eigruber. Born in Steyr, a mechanic by trade, he joined the Austrian offshoot of the Nazi Party very early on in 1928. When the party was forbidden, he stayed an illegal Nazi, for which he was imprisoned for some months in 1934. But 1938 was his big career opportunity. His loyalty was rewarded. He already was Gauleiter, the local head of the NSDAP. But only 2 days after the Anschluss, he became the new governor of Upper Austria. Already on March 27, he announced during a speech in Gmunden a decision that would become the foundation for the Mauthausen concentration camp. We Upper Austrians will receive another special honor for our performance during the struggle time of the movement. To Upper Austria comes the concentration camp for all the traitors of Austria. That part of his speech even found its way into a small London Times article 2 days later. Eigruber himself became a high-ranking member of the SS and was largely involved with the founding and organizing of the system of Mauthausen over the following years. This includes executions of prisoners ordered by him. For his acts, he was put on trial and executed in 1947.
After the war, Austria has been regarded as the first victim of Nazi aggressions. The responsibility of the Austrian people during the Nazi regime was widely denied. different types of social and individual behavior such as perpetration, complicity, consent, profit orientation, ignorance or turning a blind eye to NS crimes were reduced to mere oppression and the idea of a constant threat of becoming a victim. What else could they have done? If somebody said anything, he or she would have been imprisoned in a concentration camp immediately. Well, these statements are grounded in the assumption that the Austrian people had no other alternatives back then. Even nowadays, this is still a common belief in parts of the society. How can we deal with that in our guided tours at Mauthausen Memorial Site? In my opinion, the topic is challenging for both visitors and guides. A central question of the tour is, how is it possible to kill 100,000 people in the midst of society? Together with the visitors, we discuss different ethical questions. We talk about society, the scopes of action, different types of motivation, and about the question why people behave like they behave. Usually, contradictions become apparent in these discussions, especially relating to the idea of a paralyzed and passive society. In this context, we can offer alternative ways of thinking. For example, when we discuss connections and relations between the camp and the people who lived in its surroundings. Crimes committed at Mauthausen concentration camp were visible for many of the local people. A woman reported that she witnessed executions in the camp's quarry repeatedly. Others watched soccer matches of an SS team on the campgrounds. The soccer field was located next to the so-called infirmary camp. In other words, sick prisoners were actually brought there to die. Why did people attend those soccer matches? And what did that mean to the SS or the prisoners? The head of the crematorium, Martin Roth, married a woman from the village. They had 3 children. After the war, he and his family spent their holidays in Mauthausen. What does that mean to us? Other subjects of discussion are the scopes of action and different kinds of behavior, which base on various types of motivation. When 500 Soviet prisoners of war tried to escape from Mauthausen concentration camp, the SS started a merciless manhunt. Some residents willingly participated in it and murdered recaptured prisoners. Others closed their doors and as well their eyes and ignored the crimes. Only a few tried to help the escaped. Why did some participate? Why did others look away? And why did only a few try to help the escaped? Dealing with these topics, discussing and reflecting contradictions and alternatives means assuming responsibility for our past and for ourselves.